Welcome to the podcast, beautiful. I'm so excited for this conversation. How are you today, Emily? You look tan and glowing. I know you're in Florida. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm so good. I am really just absorbing all of this delicious warmth. It feels like summer. It smells like summer. And yeah, I'm just so excited to be here. I love having conversations like this. So thank you for having me.
Of course. We're so excited you're here. I can't wait for the listeners to hear this episode for so many reasons. But first things first, I want to kind of pivot about our story, how we met. So you and I met in group fitness. I don't even know how many years ago. When were you working at Studio 3?
Holy moly. I cannot believe how many years it's been, but it's probably been 3 years since I've worked in group fitness, almost 3 years, 2.5, 3 years. And we probably met a year and a half before that to
Totally. Long time ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I think it almost was 5 years ago, which is crazy. I remember being a little front desk person at this new studio in Chicago, and I was just learning all the instructors' names and learning the vibe of the studio. And when you walked in, I was like, I still am always in awe of you, but I just remember being like, who is that girl? And everybody felt the same way. It was like, oh, that's Emily. She's the best. Like, we love her. But fast forward now, and I am just so blown away by not only the content you put out, but just your energy, your spirit, everything. I'm so glad we crossed paths. And I feel the exact same way logging onto Zoom today that I did watching you walk into Studio 3. You are just such a light. I'm so happy that you're here today.
Oh, my face is going to explode. My cheeks are going to explode. Thank you. That feels really good to receive and to just know that that's how you felt. And it is so funny, that little life that we were living and how amazing it is that we crossed paths then. And now, like, the full circle when we like come back and reconnect in a different chapter of our lives. I love that.
It's crazy. I'm sure there's a lot to unpack in between then and now, but if you could do your best for the listeners to walk us through what Emily was like 5 years ago and your journey to today, take as much time as you need, because I love your story and listening to it, but you're a totally different woman than you were 5 years ago.
Oh my God. Completely different. Like, my life has done a 180-degree flip. And so, yeah, who was I at like 20, 21, 22, 23? The first word that comes to mind is just like, I was a hustler. I was hustling and I loved it. You know, I honestly loved it. That was like the time and place where I did have that like young 20-something in the city energy to just do it all. And I did it all. I was working in group fitness. I was dancing. I was bottle serving. I was working random gigs on the side. I was just saying, I was a yes woman. I was yes to absolutely everything, which was so amazing and random and fun, and also equally exhausting, depleting. Oh, I was sick all the time. You know, on top of all of the plates I was spinning, I was also trying so hard to date and be in relationships and also have like a social life, and that, you know, I just felt like I was maxed out. I was truly and fully maxed out, and it was epic and amazing. And obviously there was a short lifespan for that until it all came crashing down.
Talk about that crash period, because for you, at least from what I know from your story, it kind of happened during COVID a little bit. And that's when a lot of people made a lot of big life shifts, but you went out of the country with your life shift. You just like, I remember seeing your Instagram story being like, hi, I'm selling furniture. Hi, I'm selling furniture. And I was like, what is this girl doing? And then suddenly you're in Bali, right?
Yeah. It was nuts. It was, you know, the pandemic was really just like what felt like this great pause. And it was scary as F, and also so illuminating. You know, it was scary if you didn't like allow the illumination. You know, when I was like resisting seeing what it was trying to show me, that's when I was really suffering and in pain. And then when I finally opened my eyes to the very blatantly obvious fact that I wasn't meant to work in group fitness anymore. I was working in real estate. I was most definitely not supposed to be working in real estate anymore. My relationship was not working. I, at the time, was just like sick of being in Chicago. And that was just such a wake-up call. I had hired a life coach and started to do group programs with like-minded women and wellness and spirituality only a couple months before, maybe only like 2 to 3 months before the official pandemic started. And once that hit, I was like blindsided with not, with pay cuts, with shitty hours, with working at home, with being really, really by myself for the first time ever actually in my life. I barely used my apartment for the first 2 years I lived there. And then it was my full-time residence. I was barely leaving. And so I got to see, and so much came up within me that was like, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good. And I cannot do things that don't feel good to me. I've tried and tried and tried, and they have an expiration. I can fake it for about 1.5 to 2 years. And then it blows up in my face, literally blows up in my face. I'll like manifest getting fired. I'll manifest, getting, having some sort of drama happen within the workplace. Something comes up that's just like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Signs, I'm out. So I had friends that lived in Bali, and my coach, my friends that had lived in Bali, but I was like, holy shit, this just feels like the right time to like close this chapter of my life, leave my relationships, leave my jobs, sublease my apartment, sell all my shit. And yeah, got like a work visa, like went through all this paperwork and all this craziness, and sent my ass across the world to Bali, quarantined for 5 days in Jakarta, had literally no idea what I was getting myself into. There, learned how to ride a scooter, learned where the lay of the land, and lived there for 7 months.
Wow. Before you had left, was there a moment of guilt at all? Leaving your workplace, leaving your relationships, your friends, that life you had built in Chicago? Did you ever experience any guilt making that decision? Big decisions like this always come with that tail end of guilt. And it's a lot of the times what holds women back from making those big decisions is that guilt feeling.
Oh my God, yes. And thank you for speaking to that, because I'm sure that so many people that are going to listen to this podcast or have listened to things similar are in that rut, are not crossing the threshold of feeling the guilt and feeling it fully, and just being able to pass through it and move through it. And yes, I felt guilty. There were some terrifying conversations that I had to have. I felt so guilty for leaving the real estate group. I really loved the women in the family that I worked for. And oh my God, I was like, they are going to be so upset with me. And that is the piece that really is hard for me. And that's been a massive part of my growth journey, is letting people be upset with me. Because in the past in my life, that has equaled abuse. That has equaled really hard things. And so a massive part of my journey is just like following what my desire and what feels good for me, and letting others have their opinions, and knowing it doesn't mean anything about me. But I was riddled with guilt. I had just reconnected with my dad after 7 years. And then I was moving across the world. And I was like, I had to like tell him that. And I was like fearful of, and felt guilty about us just rekindling things and then me leaving. I was leaving a boyfriend that I had been with on and off for almost 3 years. So just feeling the guilt of like, should I be doing this? Is he going to be upset? Is this the right thing? And I wouldn't have been able to do it without having support in my corner. If I was trying to do this by myself and I just had a lot of people's opinions around how unrealistic it was, or how stupid it was, or it's X, Y, and Z, insert limiting belief there, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I had so much evidence and so much backing and support in my corner of women who were like dreaming big, who were following their dreams, who were pushing their edges, who were moving through guilt, who were like just following their desire at all costs, no matter what anyone said. So I would not have been able to do it without that.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Then you get to Bali, you're kind of feeling all the feels. Walk us through the first couple weeks there. What was going on in your head? What was your body experiencing? Because I know it's more mental than physical, but at the same time, there had to have been physical changes as you moved there. I'm sure the reflection of the inside came on the outside. What was going through? Because it's not like you moved to Bali and magically you were like, here's this journey I'm stepping into. There had to have been a lot of thought in those first couple weeks. What was going on in your head?
Oh man, it was messy. It's so funny because everyone's like, yeah, you moved to Bali, it's sexy, it's beautiful. And I'm like, no, it's not. I was still in contact with my boyfriend or my ex at the time. And I was really holding on to these comfort blankets. So I was holding on to him, still staying connected to him. I was still trying-ish to work for the real estate company and just like keep my license and just like refer people to them.
Right.
And within the first couple of weeks, this was so funny. And I was like, I got there, I was like, I'm gonna hop on TikTok. I'm just gonna start posting on TikTok. And I posted something on TikTok that someone actually took, screenshotted, and sent to my former employers in Chicago being like, this is the girl that's working for you. Like, can you believe that she's doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
oh man,
this is crazy. And I was like, okay, that was just like God got a spirit sign that like I just needed to cut all ties.
Yeah.
And so I eventually did no contact with my ex. Eventually was just like sent the emails to the real estate company just being like, I'm out, I'm not going to keep renewing my license, like this is where my chapter closes and where another one opens. And also it was just like scary. I'm in a third world country. Yes, I had some friends there, but like we weren't living together. They had their own very intricate lives within Bali already, and it was really up to me to like find a pace of my own. And that came with like taking lessons of how to ride a scooter for the first time in my life amongst Balinese people that know what they're doing. You're riding on the opposite side of the road. You don't know where anything is. Your phone barely works. You're trying to learn the language. And so I would lay in bed in the morning for like hours just being like, okay, you have to go get on your scooter. It's going to be okay. You have to get on your scooter. It's going to be fine. And just those like initial learning experiences were intense on my system, but eventually, you know, like fast forward a month and a half, it's like zipping around, easiest thing ever, feels so good, but it's those initial couple of weeks are intense.
Right. I'm sure. I can't even imagine. I give so much props to you for just jumping right into it. And you did make it look easy, even though I'm sure it was not like that at all. When you were there, were you expecting to kind of like have a life-changing experience coming home with it? Did you go into it thinking like, I'm going to change, I'm going to be different when I come back? How did you allow this experience to just flow the way it was supposed to? Because I feel like so many people now getting into wellness, they have expectations of how they should feel after they do something like this. And they see the after and they're like, I want to feel like that. But it's almost like you need to surrender then while you're there. Did you ever imagine like the version of you now would be coming out of that trip 3 years ago?
Honest to God, I had no idea what to expect. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to start my coaching business. I knew I wanted to be around these women that I was being coached by. But I didn't know the version of Emily that was going to come out on the other side. And going into Bali, I had decided to quit birth control and get off birth control after 6 years and stop drinking. And so I obviously had drank my entire quote unquote adult life, which is not adult. I was like 13. So like 13 to like 24, just drinking, partying heavily, and then stopping, and then taking birth control out of my body. And then like all of that coming to the surface.
Right.
And that showing me exactly what I needed to see. And I didn't know what that was going to look like because I'd never experienced those things before. I had no idea how good it was going to feel to have my own business. I had no idea how good it was going to feel to like connect with like-minded women and continue to learn about something that I actually care about, and to like help people that have gone through the similar things as I. I was doing tons of manifestation, tons of just like future visioning, and I could get into the feelings of gratitude and joy and pleasure and excitement, but I had no idea how good it would be.
Wow. I just got like full body chills listening to that. When was your aha moment, like that big moment during your transformation? If maybe you haven't had one yet, but if you had one so far, what was that moment where you're like, that old version is being left behind and I'm okay with that?
Oh, there have been a lot of aha moments, which is amazing. I'm so grateful that I've had so many little ahas, and they're chapters. You know, it's like, okay, this chapter, oh, I get this a little bit more. Got it. And then this chapter, oh, okay, get this a little bit more. Got it. And I would say my current aha that feels really good and is still a work in progress is connecting more with like fun and play.
Yes.
And knowing that like that is actually going to get me further and connect me even more deeply with the women I want to work with the business I want to have, with the relationship I want to have, the friendships, the experiences, the money, than hustling, sitting down, shoving my head into the computer and working hard. And obviously there's a very delicate dance and balance between that. But I'm running a 5-day workshop this week, and like, it's so funny because every day I'm like, okay, you got to be on the computer all day. You have to like go through. And I'm like, no, you need to go sit at the pool. You need to go read your book. You need to go walk with your dog. You need to get a smoothie. You need to be in your body and in your joy. And that is just the most magnetic energy of them all. And it feels so much better for me to show up from a place of that instead of a place of my face has been in my computer all day. I'm exhausted. My head hurts and I want to crawl into a hole.
I'm challenging you because there's always the other side. And we get shit like this all the time where people are like, you know, we'll post a reel and they'll be like, when am I supposed to do that? I don't have the time. Like, you're sitting on your phone all day doing this Instagram podcast, wellness stuff. Like, I work a 9 to 5. Someone listening to this who works a 9 to 5 or who is in an office, how can they capture those moments of joy and bring them into every day? Because there's only so many hours in a day. And what scares a lot of people away from this type of life and really diving deep into wellness and spirituality is just the time. We try to debunk that on the podcast by saying that wellness is accessible for all. It doesn't need to be this time-consuming thing. If you were talking to someone in your group as a coach and you were trying to help them find these moments of joy and to kind of spark that inspiration, but they're working behind a computer for 8 hours a day, what does that look like? What does that conversation look like?
I love that question. And I love how committed you are to making it so accessible and just showing women the access that they have to it.
Yeah.
And my response to that is that joy is literally everywhere if you decide to see it, if you decide to feel it, like just the essence and experience of being alive. Like if I am just to sit in my skin and feel the sensation of the air around my skin or the clothes draping around me, like I can feel so much pleasure in that experience. And just rewiring how you think about being alive. Like it's a 1 in like 100 billion chance that we are here on this earth. And like, what if you were an alien coming to earth to experience it for the first time, being like, whoa, these hands and this hair and this computer, just being like so enthralled with the experience that it is. So I would say that I would touch on that. And then I love like teaching my women little state shifters is what I call them. And it's just like, you know, big inhales, loud exhales, or moments where you take a dance break. Maybe you go to the bathroom stall, get in there and put a song on, and who cares if someone sees your feet like bumping around, like just letting yourself have that experience. I really love the somatic tools of getting back into the body, because being at a desk, you're just working from the chin up, completely forget how your body feels. Taking a moment to stand outside, even stand by a window, get your face in the sun, make a tea that feels really good for you, bless the tea. Like there's just so many little delicate 30-second things that you can do to boost that energy and connect and align more with that version of yourself.
Totally. I was probably in like the midst of what was beginning a spiritual growth for me a few years ago. And I was babysitting at the time and I was having an awful day. I was fighting with my ex, or we just were disagreeing on something. And I was not feeling confident with my future in group fitness. And I was just like having all of these feelings and I just felt so out of my body. And I just remember being like, I can't live like this forever. what's going to like re-spark my inspiration. And as I was babysitting, I looked down at the baby monitor and she was still asleep. She had just started to wake herself up, and she was right at the age where you're starting to like see your hands and stuff for the first time. And I caught on the monitor, she had woke up and she saw her hand in front of her, and she for a moment like froze and brought it really close to her face. And I was like, she was so amazed with her own hand. And I was like, imagine for the first time, like seeing your own hand and being like, this is incredible. Like, this is mine. Oh my gosh. So I love that. Just the stopping, slowing down and appreciating, looking around. It's really simple. Love the alien little.
I love that story. I mean, we could look at this, like aliens and babies.
Totally.
Sort of one and the same, right?
Same thing.
Same thing.
So for somebody who is kind of like sitting where we were, experiencing these signs and starting to feel like they're lacking inspiration or feeling like they're being called to something else, what are some signs that you've experienced to look for that point towards a spiritual transformation or a growth period? I know personally for me, I started to reject alcohol a little bit. I was drinking a ton. I was in that party phase as well. And there was just like a day where I just didn't want to do it when I was out with friends. And then from there, it kind of snowballed a little more. I've since brought alcohol back in a glass of wine every now and then, and I'm working on that boundary. But I know a lot of people experience rejection of drugs and alcohol. Some people don't feel like they're aligned in the work they do. What are some signs to kind of tell our listeners that, hey, maybe you should evaluate this because you might be working towards a spiritual transformation?
That is, yes. So such good awareness on your end. You're like, whoa, my body is literally rejecting this.
Totally.
A lot of people don't even realize that their body is doing that. They're like, oh, I just feel terrible. This is my baseline feeling.
Right.
Breaks my little heart.
Yeah.
But one of the signs that literally just came to me, and I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, but when I was working in real estate, there were moments when I was efforting. I was efforting my ass off trying to like close deals and get things done. And I really joined real estate because I wanted to make money.
Right.
I wanted to get out of bottle service. I wanted to work like an adult job that like had, I don't know, some better benefit and outcome. And I just wanted the money. Like I didn't really care about houses. I didn't really care about the people I was selling them to. I sound like I'm just being 100% truthful here.
Totally.
Right. Sounds awful, but that is a very obvious sign that I wasn't where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But when things wouldn't go my way or wouldn't go right when I was working in that field, I would crumble. If my boss was upset with me, I would crumble. If a client was upset with me, crumble. If a transaction fell through, crumble. Like I could not, because I just didn't care enough. There were no roots rooting me into the bigger picture and the bigger why. And so it was just like, I just fucking tipped. I just crumbled when like someone was upset with me or when something wasn't working. And now I see so much of a drastic difference being in this job, because if something doesn't work, I have a bigger why. I have a bigger connection. I am rooted into this business, and I would do this job without a promised outcome day after day after day after day.
It's so true. I've had moments of that as well, where I've been like, why am I so upset over this person's reaction to me? And that was always in the jobs or the friendships, whatever it is, that weren't serving me. And I was like, why can't I get over that little comment where everyone else is just like getting over and moving on? And I would sleep on it and think about it all the time. Wow. That's amazing. Do you have any other signs to look for?
Signs to look for. Yeah, just like, who and what do you feel your absolute best and clearest doing? Do you feel clear, and do things come easily? Where obviously we have to work for things, but I feel like there's a different element of like alignment where it's like, oh, that just came to me and it feels natural. Oh, that just came to me and it felt natural. I didn't have to over effort. I didn't have to overwork to like gain and achieve and grip and pull that into my life. Like it just aligned and came in. And that's a lot of how my journey has gone with like figuring out how to get to Bali. A lot of things just aligned themselves. Figuring out like where to live and who to stay with in Bali. A lot of that just aligned itself. When within real estate and within bottle service, everything was hard. Everything was difficult. And I do not think I like banish, control, alt, delete the belief that everything needs to be hard.
Yes.
It doesn't.
Thank you. I say the same
hard.
thing. I completely agree. There are moments of struggle, of course, and there's moments when things are going to be hard, relationships or a death in the family, things like that. But your everyday life, the thing you're waking up to do, whether it's a job, a career, relationships, whatever it is, it should not be a 24/7 feeling of heaviness and feeling like it's hard. I was supposed to go on a retreat in March. Lexi, my co-host, she just got back. She did ayahuasca for the first time.
Wow.
And she is recovering. She got a little sick after. So right now she's kind of going through it, recovering, and kind of feeling all of that after. But I was supposed to go around the same time as her to a different retreat. I was moving during the time and a lot was going on and I couldn't make it work. And I could have tried a little harder to make the scheduling work, but I just felt deep in me that I was like, the time that I need to do this retreat, everything will align perfectly. I won't have to freak out about flights being on a certain time because I have to be here for the next day to get the moving truck. I shouldn't have to worry about having my things packed before I knew that I was like, I could make this work. It'll suck doing it and I will be really anxious, but like, I'm going to wait until it aligns perfectly. And I've been starting to see that more too in a lot of things. Not everything has to be impossible.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, some things like that where it's just like, and I've caught myself doing that with even the simplest things where I'm like, I want to go catch this workout class, but I'm going to have to make it this at this time. And I'm like, wait, I can just chill. I can just go work out in the basement for 20 minutes. I can just go on a walk with my, like, it's so funny that we do think that we need to do the most and the biggest and try to jam it all in. And I think that really is just like our conditioning and hustle culture and stuff. So, you know, I love that you made that choice for yourself because really would you have been able to fully surrender, soften, open, and enjoy the retreat if all of that was on the other side?
Definitely not. And that's what I realized too. But I want to ask you now, you mentioned a few times in your story leading up to Bali and when you were there, you were with somebody in a relationship. You said that you had no contact with your ex. What's the update on that now? Are you with this person? Did you guys reconnect after Bali? What did that look like? Because I know this is a big piece of your story and who you are as a coach now.
Yeah, definitely. So that was just a hilarious, amazing journey. And him and I were on and off before I left for Bali for about 2.5 years. And each of us brought our baggage to the relationship, and neither of us really had the relational tools that we needed to be able to be in the relationship that both of us wanted. You know, we kept trying and it just kept ending one way or another. One of us would pull back, something would happen. And I was really just still deep in my shit in the beginning half of our relationship. And so went to Bali, was in contact for a little bit, went no contact. I was like, let's talk in a month and reconnect and see how it feels. We talked a month after not talking. It didn't feel good, didn't feel aligned. So we just continued to go our separate ways. And fast forward to probably month 6 that I was there, I get a FaceTime from him, a random FaceTime from him. And at that time, I had been like dating around. I had been, you know, spending plenty of time by myself and just really prioritizing my friendships with the women that were there. And I just wasn't feeling connected to anyone. I wasn't feeling like I wanted something long-term with them. And I'm a long-term relationship girly. I don't want to casually date. I want to be in a relationship. And I still had deep feelings for my ex at the time. And I was like, I'm just going to trust and pray that it all works itself out and shows itself to me how it's meant to be and how it's meant to go. And so fast forward month like 6.5, I get a FaceTime from him and he's just like, I really want this to work. I miss you. I love you. Like, this is so special to me. I like really wish that you weren't across the world right now. Let's figure this out. And, you know, I had a few moments and had some time to like reflect on that and be like, okay, let me just like sit with this and feel into this for a while. But I mean, I was still head over heels in love with this man. And receiving that phone call, I was like, wow, okay, like someone and something has like got me and is holding me and has this all planned out better than I could have ever imagined. And so, yeah, we started to reconnect and sort of have this long-term virtual relationship. And then I decided to go. I was like, I had no idea like when I was going to go home. I had no plans to go home. And he was like, yeah, well, I want you to come home. And I was like, okay. He's like, I want you to move in. I was like, okay. And we had kind of lived together previously. And then he got a puppy. And then so it was just, I flew home. It was amazing. They met me at the airport, him and my now puppy, Nellie. Which is funny because I'm like, I gave birth to her, not sure how she was in Chicago and I was in Bali. But it was, yeah, it's been amazing. And we've been in a committed, strong, it's been hard. It's been very difficult, but we've been in a committed, strong relationship for the 2 years that I have now been home. And it's insane. I would have had no idea. Literally no clue. I was like, maybe I'll meet someone in Bali. Maybe I'll just travel across the world for the rest of my life, find someone somewhere else. And no, it just was like, this is where you're meant to be. This is who you're meant to be with. And I was like, okay, let's figure this out.
I love that. A lot of the stuff you post now, because you are a relationship coach, a lot of it is very pro men and very pro the male in the relationship. And I think you probably get a lot of feedback on that, I'm sure. I actually saw, maybe it was something you put on TikTok or replying to someone who left like a not so nice comment, but it was just very much like, I feel like it was, people are just hating on the fact that they think men are always doing everything wrong. And I feel like that gets a lot of controversy and pushback, but I love the content you're putting out because it's not blaming a single person in the relationship, but talk a little bit about the transformation that your partner went through, because it wasn't just you doing the work, like he also had to put in the work. And that's kind of what you share a little bit in your content as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you speak to that because it is controversial for
Totally
a woman to be like backing men and supporting men and just trying to open women's eyes to the fact that we aren't against one another. We were put here on this earth together for a reason. There are no accidents. You know, like if men were trash and terrible, like maybe they just wouldn't exist and it would just be women ruling the world. And I'm sure a lot of women out there would love that idea. And I don't think that's for our highest and best evolution. I feel like that's rejecting personal responsibility and not looking at the things that we need to look at that will help us expand into our fullness in this lifetime. And yes, my partner, like one of the reasons I'm with my partner today is because he takes personal responsibility, is because he has men in his corner who are in committed relationships, is because he works a program and he is committed to seeing a therapist and going to therapy with me. Like that's the reason I'm with him. Not because he's perfect, not because I'm perfect, not because our life together and our relationship together is all sweet and beautiful and fun and sexy all the time. That's not the case. Like I'm with him because he works at it. He shows up for me. He is a solid whole of a man that is unwavering and just never lets me forget that he loves me and that he is here for me. Mm-hmm. And that's really special. And it's taken me not a long time to find that, but a long time to see that in men in general. Mm-hmm. And I had a really hard relationship with my dad growing up. And so I love to talk about this because I've been through the ringer with men. I've been through some terrible experiences with the masculine and with men in my life. And working through those, one, I get to see that that's the life that I was meant to have. That's the cards that I was meant to be dealt so that I could learn from those experiences and step into the role that I'm in today with helping women how to reconnect with men, the masculine, heal their experiences, and fall into deep, supportive, safe love. And yeah, so I finally have the eyes where I get to see the beautiful pieces of men, and I get to have compassion for the pieces of them that are still learning and growing. And I get to see that the men that are cheating or doing things are actually have wounded inner children and wounded younger boys in them that were never shown how to properly love a woman, who were conditioned into this, like, you know, sort of douchey boy era where it's like cool to like fuck around, and like that is a journey that they're gonna have to go on to. And it's also equally as much the journey of the partner that is with that man and has that experience, because you have so much to learn from that. And nothing, I really choose to believe that nothing happens on accident. Like everything's happening for us to show us something so we can evolve, learn from it, and step into the new chapter of our lives.
You work with mostly women, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I work with only.
Right. So then someone listening that would challenge this would say like, well, it's not my responsibility to fix the men. Like, so how are you coaching women to like, how are you coaching the women then to recognize this? Because someone listening is going to be like, then the men need to come see you and they need to figure it out with you, but you're coaching women. So what does that look like?
Yeah. Yes. So good. And what that looks like is like, no, you absolutely are not responsible for healing the man, having the man figure it all out, even though a lot of women do take responsibility for that.
Totally.
And they do try to put it on their shoulders and get their boyfriend to do all these things and read all these things and change. And, you know, I've fallen victim to that. And I've just so realized how it doesn't work, and men need to make their own decisions on their own.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're responsible for what you are responsible for is your healing and your expression. I believe that we as women are the oracle of change, honestly, within the entire world. And if we are diminishing our desires and not speaking up for ourselves and just projecting blame on to them for not knowing better, for not knowing how to take care of you, for not doing the right thing, but aren't expressing yourself vulnerably, you're just festering in your resentment and holding it all in. That is your responsibility. And nothing around you changes or evolves or isn't inspired to take the next step if you keep quiet. And you just, you know, suffer in your little resentment ball and you just are blaming the other party. It's like, wait. No, under this complaint is a desire. How can I express this desire without being attached to the outcome, but just honoring myself enough to where I'm expressing what I need, seeing if I'm going to be met. And if not, just being like, okay, this doesn't feel aligned, and letting it be and allowing yourself to move on.
So amazing. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's going to be so many jaws on the ground after this episode.
It's been that way for me too. I'm like, all of these aha moments where I'm just like floored. I'm like, wow, what a life.
To wrap up, I want to ask, how has the work that you've done over the last 3-4 years, and how is the work that you do now, present day, how has it impacted your life?
I get to, because I chose to, wake up to a life that I am excited to live every day. And I did not feel that for a long time. There was a lot of times I didn't want to get out of bed. A lot of times I would just stay in bed and not have anything that I wanted to do or felt exciting or felt filled with joy and love. And that's really, I mean, I'm a human, of course, you know, I have bad days like the rest of them, but I really do get to wake up to a life that feels light and fun and exciting and new and like, wow, yeah, that's first and foremost the most exciting thing. But in all of the other spectrums, like I have a group of women who feel like I've lived so many lives with them. And that group continues to expand, and I continue to connect with more women who I felt like I've known for lifetimes. But I've created sisterhood that has like single-handedly healed my nervous system, has like healed any and all wounds I feel around women or experiences I've had in the past with ex-best friends, And that just feels so special to know that like I have women supporting and backing me through everything I do, no matter what. And no matter what I'm doing, like I could do the most asinine, crazy, fucked up thing, and they will be like, I love you. This really doesn't seem like it's it for you, but like, I'm here for you. I've got you. I'm backing you. And just knowing that like I don't have to go through things and life alone, which I did for so long, and that was so suffocating and paralyzing. And then on the other end, I get to create such depth in my relationship. Like I get to learn and juice out all I can squeeze from this experience of dating this incredible man and having a family and moving into like starting a life together. And that's all I could ever wish for, that's all my younger self could ever wish for. And I'm so happy to be in the position of having the coaches, having the experiences, and doing the work and being able to like just commit to learning so much about all of these things that it naturally enhances my life.
You're amazing. I cannot let you get off this easily. It all sounds amazing. It all sounds lovely. Butterflies, rainbows. There's always another side to it. The podcast is called Wellness for the Hot Mess for a reason. Tell us your hot mess moment. It can be of the last week. It can be of the last month, something that stands out to you that you were just like, yeah, it's not all perfect all the time.
Oh my God, it so isn't. And that's actually been another aha before I get into my hot mess. It's the other aha is that like I'm just a human.
Yeah.
Like all of the tools I have, all of the, like at the end of the day, I'm not an ethereal angel being. I'm of physical form human. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of shit that comes with that I'm just like actually have to be so fully accepting of. I can't spiritually bypass my humanness. That's just not what this life is all about. So,
right.
My hot mess. I have one that I definitely have been thinking of, but I'm like, is there another one? Is there another one? Let's see. Yes. Okay, so the one I've been thinking of is just like the other day, I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed because in the middle of the night, it happens, right? I'm like, okay, this is so normal. In the middle of the night, my partner like let my dog out and then came in, and I always take up the whole bed. I take up the whole bed. All I want to do is snuggle. I want to be next to him, on top of him the whole time. And he was like, okay, move over, because I'm just completely on his side of the bed. And in the middle of the night, I'm half asleep, and he's like, all right, move over. And I'm like, just immediately getting angry. I was like, how dare you tell me to move over? All I want to do is snuggle. Like, I'm so cute and precious and snuggly. Like, how dare you tell me to move over? But whatever, I like begrudgingly did. I just like moved over. And then that literally carried into me like waking up in a bad mood.
Yep.
And I don't think I necessarily said or did anything to him. I think I was more reserved and quiet. But what was the breaking point that morning was me going to the gym at this little complex we live in and being told, because I didn't have a specific card, that I had to leave. And I literally almost started to cry. I was like, I can't just work out here. She's like, I've never seen you before. I'm like, I've been coming here on and off for 6 months. And she was like, just go in there, get a card from the office. And I was like, literally almost in tears, being like, this is the last straw on the camel's back. My boyfriend tells me to move in the middle of the night. I can't work out at this freaking gym. And then I was just like, oh my God, I was fuming. I was like really fucking angry and pissed and sad all at the same time. And I just had to get over it. I just had to like go. I like bought myself some flowers, got ready for the little 5-day thing I'm doing, and then came into this room that I'm sitting in, did a little Pilates workout from YouTube, and then felt so much better. But like that little few hour window, I was like seeing red.
Yeah, it happens. Then you look back and you're like, wow, I really suck.
Totally. I'm like, what was that? What was happening there? But all necessary.
Where can we find you? Because I'm talking so much about your content and all the things you put out, which not only is your page so aesthetically beautiful, but the stuff you put on there is so educational and informative, and it's so amazing. So where can we find you, and where can our listeners get a hold of you at?
Yeah, so you can find me on TikTok at m.debouver, DEBOUVER, and same thing on Instagram. Who knows if this TikTok ban will happen or what is going on in the world, but I'm like, if not there, you'll be able to find me on Instagram as well. I post all of my stuff, all of my workshops, all of my courses, all of my one-on-one coaching information on there. And soon there will be a podcast. I'm so inspired by this. So
Yay!
inspired to see how you do
Yes.
this space. And I've literally wanted a podcast for like 10 years. And I'm just like, now is crossing that threshold of like fear of and just stepping into it. So
Yeah.
that's where you can find me.
You're a natural. You'll be amazing. I can't wait for that. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for sharing your story. You are such a light, and I'm so honored to have been here with you for an hour. And I hope our listeners enjoy this conversation as well.
I hope so too. So grateful for you in this space. And yeah, I'm really hoping that these women get so much out of this episode.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Em.
Absolutely. Bye.